Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Moment of Growth and Transformation with your darling host, Tosin Opeoluwa. Today, I have a wonderful friend here in the studio with me, Beata. If we want to experience a purposeful life, we need to be healthy. Everything needs to go well in our body. We need to really feel well for us to serve other people. So today, my guest is here to do justice to that. And welcome with me, Beata.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Tosin.
You're welcome. Introduce yourself to our people. Let them know about you.
So, my name is Beata Harwood. I am honored to be a guest here today. I am the founder of Holistically. As someone who grew up holistically, I still struggled so badly with severe hormone dysregulation and really bad periods all through puberty, actually, until I turned 27. It took a trip across the ocean to Greece from the United States and discovering bioresonance frequency medicine to heal and reveal the root causes of my hormone issues. I went on to have 3 beautiful boys, all within 4 years. And fast forward, I used the same holistic modalities to bioresonance and everything that I accumulated in my knowledge to become a certified naturopath while I was healing my own aggressive spinal cancer just last year. So I'm on a mission to help empower women to become the innate healers that we were born to be. That wisdom lies within us. And unless it's emergency medicine, there's so much that we can do naturally to get our health on track and also teach the next generations how to live a healthy and fulfilling and purposeful life.
Thank you. That's powerful. You've done so much. Maybe we start this way. You tell us what actually brought you into this profession.
As I mentioned, I was healing my own spinal tumors. And that was a result of having been exposed to black mold for the second time within 4 years. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. I was in the same house during COVID with my 3 little children and my husband, and all of us had that mold in the house. Why was it only me that got sick? Why weren't any of them exposed or suffering from mold contamination? It comes down to the resonant frequency of the body, right? Everything is energy, everything is frequency. Of course, the world shut down. I was concerned about my business. I was concerned about my husband's work. I didn't know what the future was going to look like many people, across the world. We had no idea what the future was going to hold. And that level of stress and internalizing it, because, I'm putting on a good face for my kids, trying to keep them busy, trying to make the world feel normal out of the comfort of our little house and our backyard. And the stress was internalized. And of course, my kids are going through life stress-free. They were just playing. It was just another day, another week, another month. So they were not experiencing the same low energy, low frequency, that worry, that stress that I was. And my husband was optimistic. He's like, is it good? Is it bad? I don't know, right? He's like more of a stoic philosopher. So I had this internal storm. I can say that I was in the same condition just last year. My husband was going through job changes. We had moved to another state to pursue a life around his career. I had closed my business, and it felt like this new chapter that we had just started was starting to cave in on itself. So I was really concerned. I was really worried about the future, and the black mold in the house only affected me. We've since moved out of the house. And again, while I was recovering from my own, tumor elimination from my body, I worked on all aspects of my lifestyle, and it really began with addressing how I dealt with stress. And that, for many of us, starts with acknowledging that we're feeling it. This is something that I still, to this day, I'm working on. That if someone asks me if I'm stressed, oftentimes I may be feeling it and not recognizing that I am. So this is really, I think, one of the fundamentals that as women, it's in the modern world that we live. We are, I'm sure you see this, not only in your own life, but with the people and the women that you're coaching, that we just keep going. We just keep adding things to our plate. We just assume that stress is like, well, we graduated into this chapter of our lives where stress is like a baseline. And it really doesn't have to be that way. The stress in our bodies wreaks havoc when cortisol shoots up in the system, and it basically goes in and it really disrupts everything that our body needs to be doing. And it's designed to get us to run, get away from the bear, get away from the lion. I don't know about you, but I can't remember the last time I was chased by an animal that was trying to eat me. And yet my body does not know the difference. So it comes down to, number one, recognizing, are we feeling stressed out? And number two, if we do recognize that, yes, we probably are, then what do we do about it? And so there are a lot of tools that we can use to recognize these things. Um, but it really does come down to number one, as simple as, well, let's call it two things. Number one, it's how we're breathing. I learned this tool just recently from a dear friend of mine and a mentor, Dr. Grant. He reminded me that when we look at babies and toddlers breathing, they breathe into the belly. If I told you to take a deep breath with me right now, we would probably go like this, right? It's all up here. So, one of the things that we can do just to slow ourselves down a little bit and help regulate our bodies is every hour set the alarm, take deep 10 breaths into the belly. And when you first start doing it, you realize, wow, those muscles are not used to moving that way. It's almost like having a rubber band around your rib cage. So once we start getting in the habit of doing that, it is such a helpful tool. So that when we do feel that moment of stress, whether we're in traffic or even when we're driving in the car and doing the mundane things, making dinner, just do that belly breathing because it really regulates our sleeping. And you can even convince your significant other, if they snore, to start practicing this because it does help alleviate a lot of health conditions as well. It can alleviate snoring, sleep apnea if it's done over a longer period of time, but it really helps with stress management. And number two, ladies, if you feel the urge to go to the bathroom, stop and go. Unless it's like something important that you really can't disrupt. Oftentimes, when we have little kids, right, we're feeding them, we're changing a diaper, we get the urge to use the restroom. Of course, we're not just going to leave the baby on the changing table to go and pee. However, once we transition out of that baby phase, for those of us that are mothers, I mean, all women are doing it though, even, professional women and stay-at-home moms. I hear this from everyone across the board. It's like, just take a moment to go to the bathroom because your body doesn't know that you're not being chased by a wild animal, by a bear or a lion. It's sending that stress hormone through the system. So that is something that is so basic. But if we cater to that one fundamental need and we respect ourselves enough to turn to that little version of us that just got potty trained and say, "Oh, you got to go now. Let's go." You don't want to turn to yourself and say, that inner child and say, "Oh, now that you're potty trained, you're going to have to wait." Right. So, it's a layer that's really funny to when we think about it, but it's so important to utilize that. Those two key things can really help us move the needle on acknowledging whether our body is responding to stress or not. That really does shift the awareness.
That's those are powerful, especially when it comes to breathing. During my practicum period, while I was having my social work program, I discovered that when we were practicing mindfulness, because we were teaching DBT class, the dialectic behavioral therapy, um, it was there I do more of the breathing. I learn more of the breathing. But recently, I figured out something. I think I had this from a doctor on Facebook, on YouTube, that even when we breathe, we're not supposed to raise our shoulder because that's a sign of stress. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm guilty of this too. I mean, even though I know these things, I do have three young boys at home. I homeschool, I run a business, I have a practice. It is really easy to forget that awareness of our body when our mind is so consumed with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So I love that you brought that up because right, look at you and in the professional sense, you see this in the people around you that you work with, right? And then you have that moment of mindfulness and it changes everything. And then it's like, well, what did we do with that information since we each learned it? It's kind of like we have to continue remembering it. So I do try to use this as a tool in my household where sometimes I'll ask my kids to stop and breathe with me. Sometimes my kids will ask me to now stop and breathe with them. And it's great to calm down, but it's also just, it's a great way to take pause, even if nothing's going on, to get in the habit. So I definitely think that we as women are very guilty of that rushing women's syndrome, as it's called. There was a book that was authored on this in 2014, and it really is a huge source of what we see in modern women and their hormone disruption and their dysregulated sleep. And, any of us that have that belly fat right around the middle, that's cortisol. That is a sign that we are internalizing stress. And so if we can start to move the needle on our awareness on stress, And then we can implement some of these strategies to reduce our stress. And even something as simple as doing 10 squats, or 20 squats in that moment, we're physically moving the blood and the body and the muscles. That is what our body needs for us to do with that, cortisol running through our system. And that's enough to move the needle to just dissipate the stress in that moment. Now, sometimes we're in a situation where we can't do that. So this is a fun little tool that I learned about the neurological component that we can do. You want to take your left hand and you want to cover your left eye, and then you want to look up with your right eye. And when you do that for about 30 seconds to a minute, you're literally switching the left brain, right brain connection. So you're turning off the emotional brain, you're turning on the logical brain. And once you've done that, you can actually feel what it feels like to be in this left brain. So you can practice once or twice at home. And then if you're in a situation where you're in a meeting and you are in a professional, it's not an appropriate time, let's say, to do a regulation squats, that is something where you can focus on the thought of the right eye and the thought of the left brain. Now, once you've tried this yourself at home, you'll know what I mean when I say think of the right eye and focus on the left brain, because you'll be able to feel that once you've done it. And you can kind of feel that brain activate. And if you give yourself just 10 seconds to compose yourself, do a belly breath or two in a moment where you might be negotiating a contract or dealing with a toddler that's throwing a tantrum and you don't want them to see that you are also trying to regulate yourself, it's a really great tool to have. So it's really incredible what our body can do and what our brain can do, and with just a little bit of help to switch gears.
That's so powerful. You just gave us something awesome, something powerful. Now let's still go further and look at stress. When you talk about that round ring thing, that
Yeah.
and some of them are so stubborn that they will refuse to go. But I have seen something make that belly fat at least reduce and gradually walk away. And we mentioned it the other time, and it's fasting. Tell us something about fasting.
Fasting.
I
I
told
love
someone what you told me about the period that you're supposed to fast. People need to hear about this.
Absolutely.
It's juicy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing this up. Yes. So I can't take credit for this. I'm going to give credit to my amazing mentor and coach, Dr. Mindy Peltz. She is the leading expert who I've trained under and gotten certified with. And she is the leading expert on women's hormone health. And I'm so excited that I discovered her when I did, because if it wasn't for fasting and understanding how to do it with my cycle, I would not have been able to clean up my body as quickly as I did. And this is the ticket. I absolutely love this tool. This is where the whole of what I do, it focuses around how to teach lifestyle, implement the fasting, because if we as women learn how to fast around our cycle, we have a 28 to 30, maybe 32-day cycle. There are phases of our cycle which are so powerful to manifest, to create, to really tap into this innate ability of us to take something and create something else out of it. So the way that the cycle works is in that first 10 days, let's say from when we bleed till about 10, 16 days in when we ovulate, we have a power phase. This is a really great time to push the fast and clean up the system. And once we get to about 17 or 24 hours in a fast, our body literally starts to look for, what else can I get rid of? Is there some stored sugar in the organs? Is there stored sugar in the fat? And we switch into a fat burner system. And once we've unlocked that, it starts to melt away. And the best part about this is when we lose fat through fasting, our body shrinks back to size with it. We're not doing a fad diet. We're not going to have excess like loose skin. In some cases, yes, it can happen if the weight really rapidly comes off, but typically it's such an even pace because your body is regulating how it's losing weight. So it is getting rid of what it needs to get rid of as it's prepared to do that. And so when we look at the time around when we're ovulating, like day 15, 16, 17, around then, this is a really great time. The manifestation phase, this is really such a great, if I was a business owner with a bunch of women working for me, and someday soon I will be, I'm definitely going to be putting my ovulating women all on my projects because they are the most creative. They are really at the peak of their just, absolute best when it comes to mental clarity. So this is such a great time for us to be out there in the world, to be socializing with our friends. This is also a very big component of stress reduction, is making time for ourselves as women, having community, having support, having mentorship, and that fellowship. And so that is a great time. Like right then around the time that we ovulate is a great time to come in and to use, our social kind of, that's like when we're most social. And then we go into another power phase, which again, it's a great time to do some longer fasting. And then right before our period, about 5 days or so, it's until we bleed, basically. It's such a wonderful time to just sit back, chill, kind of go inward. Great time for more prayer and meditation, for journaling, for kind of planning out the month ahead up until that day one of bleed. And that's when we want to eat some of nature's carbs. That's when we don't want to push a fast. And it's really important for a lot of people who do adopt different lifestyles or work out really aggressively. That's a time where you want to nurture the hormonal changes. We want to respect all of the hormones that we're working with within the female body. And we want to make sure that we fast when it's appropriate, and that we also kind of lean back and just let our body transition into that shedding and that detoxifying that comes with our cycle. And this isn't exclusive just to cycling women. Women who are in menopause or postmenopause can absolutely do the same thing. They can follow a 28-day fasting cycle, eating cycle, and do it based off of whatever. Let's say the full moon is a good one, because a lot of us that are timed up to a lot of babies being born on the full moon, as we know, it's when births spike in hospitals, as you probably know. So even it's not exclusive just to fasting for women around their cycles. This is something any woman can do, as long as, they're an adult. I wouldn't recommend it for teenagers on their cycles, but yes, absolutely. Fasting is such a wonderful tool, and it taps into beyond the physical benefits of losing the weight and managing the cortisol. It really is flushing out our system from like the mind, body, spirit perspective, because we're challenging ourselves to try something new. And once we learn how our body reacts to these and adapts to these small shifts that we're doing, when we go into that fat burner system, we're producing ketones that really fire up the brain. It is amazing. The hunger starts to dissipate with ketones. We were designed that way, right? Like our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they had fast and they had famine and feast. And so our bodies are designed to kind of kick into the state where they're like, all right, now we're getting to the point where we need to fuel up. So we have to be at our peak performance state with mental clarity. So the ketones provide us with exactly that. And this is also where we're burning that fat, which is so wonderful. And so it's kind of this beautiful dance that the body does. And when we learn how our body feels as we're going through these phases, then we know that, like, no matter what life throws at us, we have a couple of tools. So if we're having a couple of birthday parties, in a weekend, we know that there's a period that we can just accommodate our fasting around, before or after, depending on where we are in our cycle. We can go away on vacation and not gain the weight back. It's not a fad diet. It's a lifestyle. And it's so cleansing from so many perspectives. And this really is a way to reverse almost any disease that's out there if you catch it early enough. This is absolutely a wonderful tool to be able to just heal from the inside out.
That's so powerful. You see, I love this conversation because they are giving out free tickets to healthy life, to fulfill your purpose. Now, let's look at this. You also mentioned that fasting is not only about losing weight, and you chip in something that I want you to talk more on:
Sure.
self healing.
Mm-hmm.
But before then, do all of us have the capacity to self heal?
100%. 100%. There is absolutely every single one of this. Is my tagline is you absolutely can heal. So we have that wisdom within us. Every cell is programmed at birth. The heart is beating without us consciously thinking about it. Our lungs are taking in oxygen without us consciously thinking about it. That is what we call internal wisdom in naturopathy that dictates when we're given the right inputs, when we nudge our body just a little bit with some of the tools that it needs to get back to homeostasis, we kick that inner wisdom on into full force, and our body can absolutely heal itself. Now, that's not to say that there aren't cases where we might catch something a little late and we should absolutely use emergency medicines for that. But truth be told, all disease is just a lack of balance. It's dis-ease. So when we incorporate fasting into our lifestyle, we're allowing the body to go a long enough of a period to start cleaning up the cells. We get rid of toxins that have been sitting and hiding and being stored. Our body, when it gets sick, it's a mechanism that protects us. It is a life-saving mechanism when we get sick. And I'm not the only person who has said that. And it's a controversial statement to make, but the truth is, that illness is a symptom of a root that is the reason, the precursor that other things have happened with our health. So if we are, for example, noticing shortness of breath, a doctor will tell you if you have persistent shortness of breath or pain in the chest, right, precursor to a heart attack. So it's not, that heart attack isn't like out of the blue. It is a bunch of things that led up to that heart having that heart attack? Could it be lifestyle, lack of sleep, diet? Yes, of course, there's some hereditary factors as well. But when we understand that there are signs that we catch them early on, that there's something's a little bit off, sometimes doctors, most of the time actually, won't be able to catch that early. But when we learn to listen to our body and we incorporate something like fasting, we're getting out ahead of potential disasters. So you don't have to be in a situation where something is wrong with you to start fasting. It is a wonderful tool to learn how to facilitate just living healthier and eliminating, as we age, not only toxins that build up through life, but stress that builds up over time. And it allows us to really embrace our full potential of health, what our body was designed to be, in balance, fully healthy.
Thank you so much for sharing all these powerful tools with us. One of the reasons why it's actually hard, because when you talk about listening to your body, I've had people say this, and I think I've mentioned this to quite a number of my patients that I've seen in the past. One of the ways by which it's good for us to be able to listen to our body is to live in the moment. Practicing mindfulness, it's a very powerful tool in listening to our body. And everything still boils down to stress. So we go, 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 and then we don't give our body to the power to be still. And you've mentioned this from the start. If you want your body to be still so that you can be able to hear what your body is saying, you have to be able to work on your breath. Breath work cannot be overemphasized. Living in the moment, thinking about what you are thinking about, doing things mindfully. You're eating, look at the food you are eating. Think about the food. You're drinking water, look at the glass, look at it. As you drink, feel how the water moves through your lungs. Just be aware of everything you're doing, and you can easily catch so many things in your body, just like Beata has said. Thank you so much. And I want you to tell us, how can we actually be our home best friend?
I actually love what you just said about the mindfulness, because this is something that I was asked to do probably about 2 months ago as an exercise. And this really helped me come into an awareness. And I think that I'm discovering a deeper layer of how to be my own best friend. I think this is, for women especially, an ongoing lifelong journey, because we, unlike men, they have a 24-hour hormone cycle, right? Like, they are going to go through the same hormone changes every day. Women, we are so unique. We have pre-puberty. Okay, we share that in common with men, fine. Then we go into puberty. We share that with men too, but that's when it all changes every 28, 30, 32 days, right? Then when we get into the childbearing years, not everybody has them, but then we all go into menopause, and then we all come out of menopause. So we have so many evolutions and stages of our incredible lives that offer us an opportunity to be our own best friend, to, work with that inner child and whatever she may have experienced, because it comes up in layers, right, as we get older. So as I mentioned, going to the bathroom, when we feel the urge to go to the bathroom, there's no need to hold it. There really isn't. I mean, unless it's a situation, obviously, where it's inappropriate to just get up and go. But most of the time when we're at home, there's no reason to hold it. If we're in the car and we're not rushing to be in an appointment, find a place to stop and go. Don't hold it. Not only is it healthier for, your urinary tract, your bladder, your kidneys, but also you are speaking to yourself subconsciously and saying, I honor you. I honor your basic needs. I'm going to be here for you for those basic needs. And another thing, as I mentioned with the mindfulness, that the exercise I was asked to do was I set an alarm for an entire day and walk around with either a notepad or my phone notes, and literally every 15 minutes when the alarm went off, to take note of what I was thinking. And this at first was so challenging for me, because it was always a feeling. So I realized that what I was feeling was like, oh, I'm tight in the neck, or, oh, I feel like I sat too long. Like, it was body feeling, right? It wasn't my actual thoughts that, oh, I have this to do later. And then once I got through the noise of what my body was, the first couple of hours were difficult, because I'm like, why is it just my body? Like, I really wouldn't say that I'm walking around in pain, but every time the alarm goes off, I'm like, something hurts. This was my body's way of saying, I'm distracting you from what's going on in your head. Once I peeled back that layer, and this is where the mindfulness really dove in, the noise that was going on in my head started to silence through the rest of the day, as I was brought into an awareness of what is it that I'm thinking in that moment, every 15 minutes. That was kind of an exhausting exercise. I don't know that I'll do it again anytime soon, but it was so powerful in revealing to me where I can honor myself more deeply, where some of these thoughts that came up were so untrue about who I am, or, where I could do better, the guilt that I might feel around, my kids, or what I'm not doing at home, or where I might be needed more with my extended family. And it gave me an opportunity to sort of turn to myself. And I did this. I looked in the mirror and I just gave thanks to myself for showing up the best that I can at the end of the day, and knowing that I did show up as best I could. And sometimes if 30% of best is all I could give in a day, that was my best for the day, I'll take it. I'll take it. I did what I could with what I had. And that was really so powerful because it brought me into an awareness of, this is probably going to be an ongoing, lifelong peeling back the layers of how I think and how I speak to myself. I think all of us have that, but it definitely shifted me into an empowerment. And now I'm at a stage where I've been reminded that I need to laugh. So I'm looking for ways to laugh more because I need that to be my own best friend. Talk about a stress reliever for cortisol, like a stress reliever that literally scientifically proven diffuses the stress in the body, laughter. So, like I said, a dear friend and mentor of mine that had me, brought me into this awareness of the laughter. I thought, with YouTube at our disposal, it's so easy to find something within 30 seconds to laugh at, to diffuse stress in any given moment. And that's a great tool. Even with the kids around, they don't need to know that I might be feeling a little overwhelmed and stressed. All I need to do is find something funny for us to laugh at for 5 minutes, and everybody benefits from it.
That's so powerful. My husband practiced this. He will, when he comes back from work, on some days, he will play some funny videos, and all the children, everyone will be around him to watch the video. And that's it's always therapeutic for me in the evening. It
I
makes me
love
laugh.
it.
So every one of us, because I just wonder when, women go around because we are so stressed and it looks like the whole world is crushing. And we live in this environment, especially in the Western world that we have.
Mm,
People are so private. And I'll say,
mm,
you know what? Even though people are private, if you ask someone, if you can talk to them, they will answer you. But if
one,
you don't want to talk to people,
mhm,
make sure you watch something funny, something
mhm,
that makes you laugh. I
mm,
mean, that's another powerful tool that you share with us
absolutely.
today. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
No, I love that.
So,
Yeah.
so it looks like what we're talking about today, they are all interwoven. Healing your body, losing weight,
Mhm,
everything has to do with how our body functions, how we react to stress, how we listen to our body, and
mm.
how we make use of some of these tools that you have told us about. And it looks like these are some of the things you teach women in your program. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I work one on one coaching women for varying lengths of time, depending on what we're dealing with. But my goal is to walk side by side with women in their journey in understanding their bodies and healing their bodies. Because honestly, 80% of the autoimmune diseases that exist in the United States are among women. There are almost 800 million people on earth that are obese. So every one of us is walking around with something that we could improve on. And I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be, when you look me up on Instagram, I'm not the one who's got the perfect account or the perfect figure, but I've been there. I've been my whole life eating what we thought was healthy, what we thought was right. And it actually helped my mother heal her health conditions. And it was so beneficial to learn what it felt like to be healthy, and changed my diet. But going into puberty, there was some things that were missing. And that journey was a very long one. And it got to a point where I thought, that's just how it's going to be. And that brings me to a lot of the women that I talk to, is a lot of us look at something in our lives and we tell ourselves, you know what, that's the thing I'm just going to have to live with. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be that way. Whether it comes to our health or our relationships, there's always something that we can do to move the needle. And even if that's only work on ourselves when it comes to something other than our health, we can still work on ourselves, right? We can change our perspective. We can look for different opportunities, whatever the case might be. But when it comes to our health, my goal is to walk women through that transition into learning how their bodies work, into understanding fasting. Not everyone can fast. Almost everyone can, though. And then also adopting holistic modalities. So if I know that something is going on with my body, let's retrace the steps. What did I eat? Did I sleep enough? Am I drinking enough water? Most of us aren't. We need to drink half of our body weight in water of ounces a day. Most of us are not hitting that goal. And then we also want to make sure it's a good quality water, if it's reverse osmosis, we need to have minerals added back into it. Are we drinking out of plastic or glass? Like, these things all contribute to, our health and well-being. But once we learn to listen and we walk that path together, the women I work with no longer need me. We get to a point where they don't need me, and I can bring in the next woman and walk by her side. So I coach women for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and everything in between. And we just go on the journey together. They come into my inner circle. I'm on speed dial for you. I answer the text message as if you were my own sister. And the reason for that is we need that community. And once women have learned, they go out and they share it with their friends. So when we work together in this way and we share as women, we support and we offer, support to women for things that we've been through, regardless of what it is. Me with health, you with your vast, background and experience, and even your career, both from the personal and professional perspective. You have such a toolbox of knowledge that even with talking with you just last week, I walked away feeling so empowered that there is a movement of women that we're all putting ourselves out there to guide and help women so that then they can be the empowered ones going into their communities, taking, control of their family's health, making better decisions, because this is going to affect the future. Our planet is going through a awakening right now. It's a transition. So many people are being called forward, and a lot of people don't know like what it is. I see a lot of women asking questions about their kids' health, questioning, I don't know if I really need to be giving my kid an allergy medicine. Like, maybe I should look at the food first, right? So I walk this path with them and help empower them with that toolbox, so they get to a point where even if they don't have an answer for something that's happening, they know where to look. They know what to kind of peel the layers back on, and then they have an array of decisions that they can make moving forth from there. So, together we are stronger when we have, mentorship, and when we have, a community of women, and we have a sense of like care coming from other people. I think that really empowers us to step into, our full potential.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. There's a question I always love to ask before I let you say any other thing that you feel you are yet to talk about and you will love to talk about. And that question is, how does your purpose drag you into this profession that you're doing?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I think that through my journey, I was very blessed that my mother's journey with her health personally, it shaped the way that the conversation went around health in my household. I encourage all of us to lean into this a little bit. It might be uncomfortable at first, but did you poop today? And if so, did it float? Did it sink? What was it like? Because, it's digestive health. So I know that this is taboo, but things like this as a child, normalizing the functions of the body, like giving me an awareness of what to look at, that was very helpful. And so I think that, I think that the direction in which we can go with the conversation, around our health, and not only just with ourselves and our own self-empowerment, but, with our families. I see how a lot of people now are asking the questions that my mom had to ask about the health, about like the diagnosis, about the direction that, doctors want to take their individual health journey. And I was very blessed that I didn't have to go through like the discovery of a lot of these things. So it was always there. It was always in my life. And her work was with children who were brain injured. So all of my closest friends had severe brain injuries, autism, Down syndrome, genetic disorders. They were told they would not walk. They were told they wouldn't be able to talk. They were told they'd never go to school. And my whole life, I witnessed medical miracles. I saw these kids because their diet got cleaned up, because they were creeping and crawling with therapy that their parents did day in and day out. Their parents were the ones who were the experts on their health needs, on their therapy. Their parents were the ones who found the community and the volunteers to come into the home. They were able to accomplish things that they were told they could never do. So I learned very early on that, when we feel convicted about something, following that conviction with passion can lead to amazing things. And I saw some incredible adversity overcome. And I think that set the stage. So I didn't see the purpose right in front of my face almost my entire life. And it took me getting very sick. I mean, even with the hormones, I traveled to Greece. I worked with a colleague of my mom's who worked with these brain injured kids. And I sat on this bioresonance machine for a day and a half, and we were able to get my health and my hormones kind of sorted out and find the root causes that my testosterone and cortisol all was dysregulated. He gave me toolbox to go home with, taught me a little bit more about how to heal my gut because I had gut issues also. So despite being holistic, I still was able to dive deeper into it. And I thought, well, great, I'm fine. This then that's the end of that. And, finishing school and pursuing, opening a business. But it took me getting sick just last year that I literally was sitting with my naturopath, and the words just came out, what do I need to do what you do? And it was a voice that spoke through me. It was the 6-year-old little girl inside of me. And she spoke in my mother's native language in Polish. I don't even think in Polish, but her voice just came out in English. And I said, I knew that that God was calling me forth to live in a bigger way and a bigger purpose. And I really believed that I was doing that. I really believed that my purpose as a mother and a wife, it was so fulfilling for me. And that when COVID hit and I ended up surviving that with the business. I had a previous business and I was just doing it. It was a business that you do things for a living. It didn't feel like it was my calling or my purpose. I was very committed to it. Survived COVID. I thought this is what I'll be doing. But my husband had an opportunity with the career move. And so we followed it. And I thought, okay, great. I get to be at home with the kids finally. I don't have to work. This is going to be a nice new chapter of our lives. And I got very sick very quickly, and it really woke me up to the fact that these things that get thrown at us of adversity in our lives, they often can carry kind of a double meaning. And when I say double meaning, I feel that oftentimes there is a reason that these things happen, meaning, where was I as I was getting sick? I was in fear, I was in worry. And it was my body speaking to me that where I wasn't serving me. And it took me getting very sick to kind of wake me up out of that. And of course, as we're going through these things, we don't know, right? We don't know what the meaning of it is oftentimes. But I did tell myself that, whatever it takes, I know that there is a solution. I've seen so many people recover from so many things. So I can too. And in that, I was called forward to fulfill, what I'm doing now. And so we'll see where the journey takes me. But I'm just showing up every day and asking to be led, just, to be pointed in the right direction, and that I serve, for the benefit of all and to the harm of none. And then I meet wonderful people like you, Coach Tosin. It's just incredible. It's just incredible.
I'm so, so happy to meet you. Like you said in our last conversation, I felt like, oh my God, she just taught me something I don't know. There is, I mean, we don't know what we don't know, right? And
Right?
that's why I'm open to learning. I always want to learn something. I always want to learn something. So I'm so happy to meet you because it changes something for me. I love to fast, but it changes how I fast. So that was super helpful and super powerful. So I hear you saying that adversities that we go through, they happen for us. They didn't happen against us, because there's always a purpose that is going to come out of every adversity and challenges that we go through. And that brings us into power. And that's why I encourage women, get to a space in your mind where you become intentional about healing the past so that you can enjoy the present. The past that you've gone through, it's not meant to break you. It's meant to bring you into the space of power to empower other women, just like Beata is doing today. So I want to really thank you for obeying that call and bringing this blessing to our world. Women need this. We need each other. We need this power to become the better version of ourselves
Yes,
and be able to do what God has called us to do in our world, in our family, for our children as well. Is there something that you like to still share that I did not ask?
I will end on this. I want to thank you so much, because I don't believe in accidents, and the fact that we met when we did and we were getting to know each other after this is this process of coming into each other's worlds this way. It's such a beautiful energy that you have created for women. I am so honored to be invited into your space with what you're doing. So I just want to say that if we continue on our path, I hope that anyone out there who's seeing this and who's thinking to themselves, I'd like to this or I'd like to that, just do it. If you feel called to do something, or you're hearing something that's kind of sparking an interest to potentially entertain pursuing, the career change, or investigating something more deeply with your health, or reaching out to someone to create community, like even if there's a woman that you have in your life that you'd like to get closer with, do that, create that community, do the thing, and do it scared and do it messy, because we really don't know who needs us. We really don't know who in our future, in our communities, could benefit just from that connection. I'm so grateful, to be in your space. And I love the way that you're inspiring women, and showcasing so many incredible women. I think that this is just such a blessing. This is what we need for the strength of our futures. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. How can people find you? What handles will they find you on? Instagram, YouTube?
So I am, the easiest way to find me and connect with me is on my personal page on Facebook. I am Beata Harwood, CNHP. It's a public profile. The same on Instagram. My business pages are Holistically Hormones. So I would love for anyone who wants to reach out to me, just jump on my personal page. And I will plug that I am speaking this month, actually, at the She Leads Women's Festival. And it is over 110 women from all around the globe who are sharing their stories of empowerment with women. So it's going to be such an awesome experience. And you can just Google the She Leads through Event Raptor. But I thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Those who will watch the premiere and those who will watch the replay, we just want to say thank you. We love you.
Love you.
And thank you, thank you, thank you. My daughter loved doing this. She
Yeah.
really loves doing it.
I love the heart. Yes.
So thank you, everyone. Until we come your way again, we want to say keep becoming a better you. Things work when we work it, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Yes.